Welcome to The Big Rich Show. This podcast will focus on conversations with friends and acquaintances within the four-wheel drive industry. Many of the people that I will be interviewing, you may know the name, you may know some of the history, but let's get in depth with these people and find out what truly makes them a four-wheel drive enthusiast. So now's the time to sit back, grab a cold one, and enjoy our conversation.
Whether you're crawling the red rocks of Mo-hab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Why should you read 4Low Magazine? Because 4Low Magazine is about your lifestyle, the four-wheel drive adventure lifestyle that we all enjoy. Rock crawling, trail riding, event coverage, vehicle builds, and do-it-yourself tech, all in a beautifully presented package. You won't find 4Low on a newsstand rack, so subscribe today and have it delivered to you. On today's Conversations with Big Rich, we have Phil Norvold. Phil is the owner of Max-Bilt Offroad and Manufacturing. He has been in and around the car scene for quite a while. We're going to talk to him about how he got started in off-road and where he's at now and what's coming in the future. So, Phil, thank you very much for coming on board. It's been a pleasure knowing you for the short time I've known you. We got to know each other, I think, because of the epic Willy's adventure, but maybe it was at Masterminds? Anyway.
I feel like we knew of each other before,
yes.
But Masterminds we really got to, I think, cultivate more of a relationship.
Correct, yeah. So thank you for coming on board.
Thanks for having me. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's hit it right out of the park to begin with, and where were you born and raised?
So I was born in Hudson, Wisconsin in 1985. And I lived there till I was 6. I guess I'd have to say, though, that my more impressionable years, I was raised on the East Coast in Connecticut. Moved back to the Midwest when I was 16, and I've been here ever since.
And when you, I'd imagine if you left when you were 6, those years up till 6 are, at least with me, they're a little foggy. It's more about what people have told me I did or what we did, more so than what I remember doing. Is that the same with you, or do you have some
100%. Memories? I remember talking to the moving guy in the driveway of the house, but that was about it. Most of my memories were from out east, and until when I moved back, every once in a while we'll drive by that house that I was born in, and you remember a couple of things, or I remember some memories of the playground out back or whatever, but most of that's just kind of, like you say, more of a painting in the brain than a real recollection of a story.
So then let's start with being in Connecticut, and was that Madison area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. So I was in right on the East Coast, or right on the Long Island Sound, little beach town. We didn't have any immediate family out there. It was, I didn't grow up. I wasn't into cars. I wasn't into much of those things. But my dad was, he was my pal. So it was whatever house projects, right? Always fixing or coming up with something to repair a project or make something better. He was pretty crafty, and so that was my nights and weekends. And we did some, obviously, like the sports as kids, and did the Cub Scouts, Boy Scout thing for a while, and so that was kind of, we were brought over there for a job transfer that he had. We were able to, grow friendships with people out there. But I always seemed to have a connection to Connecticut, or to Wisconsin, because we would come back here every summer while I was growing up and stay with my grandma up in the North Woods. And earlier, I was 11 or 12, my parents got a divorce, and my mom had said, well, where do you want to go? And I said, well, let's go move back to where she grew up in northern Wisconsin. And she was like, absolutely not. We can go anywhere in the planet, but we're not going to go back to Wascott, Wisconsin, mainly because, well, there's not a lot of opportunity up there. Or if you do have the opportunity, it's harder to, it's just harder to get everywhere. It's a little bit more remote. So she had said there's a town called Eau Claire, Wisconsin. It's a kind of the mix of everything. She was able to finish her schooling that she was working on, and so it kind of was the best of all worlds. And it was only like an hour and a half, 2 hours from my grandma's up north, so I was able to go spend time up in the woods and still have some semblance of human connection here in Eau Claire.
So working with your dad doing projects and stuff was there in Connecticut. What kind of job was he doing?
So he actually worked in just salesman in the food service industry.
Okay.
So he worked for a company called Viola Marketing Group, and they were a manufacturer's rep for, well, every Subway that you've ever been in,
right,
has bought all of their equipment to make those sandwiches and keep the meat fresh and whatever from Viola Marketing Group.
Okay.
So, and my conversations, or the ones I was around, was about, cook and hold ovens, and like, hey, that's a really nice commercial sink. Not, but I do remember at the warehouse, or the back of that their office. We called it the office in the warehouse. It was just, the back of that building. My uncle, Uncle Dave, who my dad worked with, and it was an honorary family member because that's all that we had out there. So I still refer to him as such. But Uncle Dave had an old AMC Javelin.
Oh, nice.
Underneath the tarp, and it was like, I'd always just be fascinated by it. And I was the kid who just liked to take things apart. If they went back together, like, that was a bonus. And if they went back together and worked, well, that was a rarity. But I just was always wanting to know what's next and how does it work. And so that car always intrigued me, and just knowing Uncle Dave's background with, like, he had, when he was younger, he was into those old cars and old Mopar stuff, and specifically AMCs. He was a big Jeep nut, and so I guess, and I'm maybe just making this connection right now, but my dad's, the first Jeep that I could remember was a 1987 Jeep Cherokee Laredo Classic it was like, it was 2-door, tinted windows, had that burgundy plaid interior.
Okay.
And that was, my uncle gave that to my dad in, I think, 91, as a company car. It was his, and like, it had the window sticker folded up in the glove compartment. I remember that. Wow. And I remember those, back before we had garbage bags that had drawstrings in the top, there was, remember the yellow Christmas trees that were like jammed in the box? You'd like snap them apart, and then when you would like tie your bag up, you'd wrap it up with this little like sawtooth looking yellow piece of plastic, and then that would be how you would tie the bag shut.
Yep.
Well, one of those was wrapped around one of the spokes of the steering wheel as a good luck charm. Remember, my uncle said when he gave it to my dad, he's like, "Don't take that off. That's good luck." And so to this day, side note, that's still there.
On
And
that
that
car?
Jeep is still around too.
That
Yep.
Jeep is still around. Wow. And that was
Yeah.
the XJ style?
Yep. Yeah. So that was
Wow.
like the, it was just after, that must have been right after Chrysler bought it. And then it was like the first year of the figured out fuel injection stuff. Because before that, it was a little bit different look on the Cherokee. I don't remember exactly what that model year switch was. That's one thing I'm not super great about. We were talking about Vern. Guys like Vern or Pete Trasborg, like those are specifically Pete. I don't know if you were lucky enough to spend time with him.
No, I never got to.
Oh my gosh, he was the Rain Man of Jeeps, and he would know that. Oh well, it had this type of stitching, so that must mean that it was this model. Blah 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 blah. But anyways, I digress. That was, I think, my first involvement in Jeeps was that '87 Cherokee, and because of my uncle's interest in them, my dad became interested in them, and then I became interested in them. And we had one of those as a family car for up until my parents split and we started moving around again. And
I'm glad you were able to make that connection.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's always been, well, how'd you get into it? Well, when I was 18, which we jump ahead if you don't mind. No. I'm just kind of rambling.
No worries.
But once we moved out back to Wisconsin, and I started, the people that I connected to out here were like a lot of the auto shop guys down in the Voc Rehab. They, in Connecticut, there wasn't a whole big automotive side of the high school vocation.
Right.
And like I was into like the boat building and the TV production out there, and then we had less of that here, and we had more woodworking and auto repair, and so I just kind of gravitated towards that and those people. A lot of the country guys and kids that worked on farms were the people that I tend to kind of relate to a little bit more. And so I picked up my first wrench when I was 15 in an automotive respect, changing struts in my mom's car or what it was, learning with the guys in the auto shop. And I enjoyed that because just that satisfaction and instant gratification that like, oh, I take these 3 bolts out, I put this part in here, and then I bolt it back together. And not only did I fix a problem, like I made somebody's day.
Right. And
so that's kind of, and then it was, I was working on a farm for a farmer, and I told him, I was like, I think I want to go into auto mechanics. Because I'm trying to, at that point of your life, you're trying to figure out, everybody's always asking you, what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do with your life? Like, I want to be a mechanic. And he's like, all right, here, change the transmission in my 96 Chevy. And like, I hacked my way through it, like figured it out. There are a couple of the bell housing bolts weren't tight because I don't know, I couldn't get to them, and it'll be fine. Wasn't fine. Definitely had to tighten those back up. But
I think we've all done that.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Either intentionally or unintentionally.
Yep. And then I still kept going, and he had an old 70s, like a 73 Highboy Ford. As an old like sprayer truck. It was all rotted out, beat up, but had a 400 in it and 4-speed tranny. And he's like, oh, you can have it for $150. Good luck. There's no title. So I took that, and then that next year, my last year of high school, ripped it all down in the auto class, wire wheeled the frame. Was going to do, because you start taking these things apart, no matter what it is, especially the older stuff, and it's like, oh, just a few more bolts, and then I'm like here.
And all you've done is opened another can of worms.
Right, a massive can of worms. And I remember, my buddies enjoyed the project too, and like we just go work on it, and it was cool to see it. Well, I found a rust-free body. We got it, like the frame painted up and a new lift kit in it. And
You found a rust-free body in Wisconsin?
well, all right, so it didn't come from Wisconsin.
Okay.
I don't know where it came from. We don't have rust-free anything here, as you know.
Yes.
I don't even get. It's like this crazy mix of whatever road salt they use and our humidity levels. It's as bad here as it is, in Cape Cod. It's
right.
ridiculous. But once I got the truck to that point, then like life happened. I moved back. I think I went back down to the farm that next summer. I brought it with me, and it sat there for like a year or two. So then I just moved back home. I ended up, I think this was now like 2005. I graduated. I had looking for a job while I was going to be going to CVTC or the Chippewa Valley Technical College in town. I was going to go for auto body. I decided instead of auto mechanics, because I was like, well, I know how to do mechanics, of course, right? I know everything, so I don't know anything about this, so I'll go do that, and I'll spend the next rest of my life huffing Bondo dust. And while I was doing that, I got a job at Napa Auto Parts, and I was working with met this guy named Adam. He was he was the only other like younger guy that worked there, other than and I was the
most Napa parts houses or Napa dealers are the employees have been around for a while.
Oh yeah, they're like the Napa's the CarQuests of the world. That was like they're the OG parts houses.
Yeah.
Like you can go there with, and I was lucky to be able to work nights and weekends, so I got to see the really crazy stuff. But it also helped me like satisfy that urge of like finding parts or like solving a problem. Right? Somebody would come in like, oh, I got this cap off of my tractor, but the rotor is off of this other. Like it's just you'd be mixing and matching based on part numbers, sizes, and descriptions, not on your make and model. Which
right.
At this stage of my game, I think you could agree it's pretty rare to ever be able to call a parts house up and give them the legit vehicle for what you're actually working on. You just know that these brakes came off of this.
Exactly.
Even though they're just not on it anymore. But I enjoyed that aspect of it. Worked my ranks up from delivery guy up into a counter guy, and then I did some outside sales for him between 2005 and 10. But in I want to say it was late 2005, we ended up switching stores, and we were in the new building on a weekend, and Adam and I were chatting back and forth, and he's like, oh, I think I'm gonna get a Jeep. Or no, I know what it was. While I was going to auto body school, my dad reconnected with me and said, hey, I've always wanted an old CJ7, and you're going to auto body school. If he's like, I have this one that I just got for $1,800. Would you repaint it? Now, an $1,800 CJ7 that needs to be quote unquote repainted. If you've ever seen an $1,800 CJ7 from the northern Midwest, you could throw a football through 90% of it. So it wasn't just repainted. It needed to be rebuilt and then repainted. But of course I didn't know anything at that point. So I was like, yeah, sure. You bet I will. Bring it up here and we'll hammer it out in a month or two. Shouldn't be a big deal. In between, living the college life, going out with buddies and being hungover the majority of the 4 hours you're spending in lab every day, that month and a half turned into like 5 months. But I learned a lot about it, and as I was doing it, it was like, man, these things are, you know, a pain in the neck, but at the same time, they're kind of fun. And Adam was saying we'd talk about stuff nights and weekends. I've always wanted one too. And we had the trading post. This was before Craigslist. An ad popped up in the local trading post, and it said, like, I can't remember who was looking at something. I think I was looking for a Jeep, and it was like $200. And we went to look at it. There was no motor. There was a tree growing through the hood. But while we were there, Adam looked and he saw a 67 C101 Commando, like 3 vehicles down. This dude had a bunch of stuff. And he's like, he kind of shifted his gaze to that. And so then we started talking with the owner about that one. Or Adam saw it in the ad, and that's why we were there. Either way, check that out. And then the one, he had this CJ that he was driving that was a twin to the one that my dad picked up that I was finishing repainting. I was like, well, how much do you need for that, CJ? And Adam's working a deal on this Commando. I'm working a deal on the CJ7. And the guy wanted $2,500. Now, a broke college kid, working for $120 a week at Napa. I didn't really have $2,000 disposable income. Right. But I did have an old highboy that was like really close to being done down south in the next town over. So he was like, I said, I've got this 91 F-150 that I'm driving now. I got this 77 highboy. I'll trade you both of them for this Jeep. And meanwhile, Adam sunk a deal with that Commando for $200. So he's now owns that. My deal took like a few more weeks to work with him. We somehow, I don't even know how we got Adams back to wherever we were working on it. But so that was his. I ended up getting mine. I rebuilt mine to like the same color scheme as my dad. So we had twins Jeeps. He was living down in Iowa at the time. I was living up here, and Adam and I were learning. And again at that time too, it wasn't necessarily I need to buy these replacement parts. It was like, well, these replacement parts are really expensive, so like maybe we can use, well, like 56 Bel Air coil springs are a 2-inch lift spring for a Cherokee. If side note, it's like little stuff like that. Because it was like, oh, well, the lift springs are like $110 for a pair, but these old Chevy springs are like $42 from for a pair, just regular over the counter on the shelf. And just goofy stuff like that. Spent a lot of time finding the hard stuff, but we both grew an affinity for some of this vintage iron. And Adam's always been like, old is cool, which I agree. And I mean, we cut our teeth on old stuff. Yep. So while everybody's driving around, because at this point, I mean, this is the turning point into the JK out of the TJ. The TJs were still like, couldn't be touched by somebody of my lowly stature. And then like the JKs were the cream of the crop. Also, the whole like model change, everybody whines about that. I mean, I don't think we'll ever get over that.
No.
They're like, well, I can't believe they're gonna improve things. Yeah. For heaven's sake.
Like, and I find it funny, the guys that started with JKs when the JLs came out. I can't believe they're moving, the lights out onto the fenders, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and it's like, guys, stop.
Right. You have no idea. This is easy. Imagine going from a CJ7 to a YJ. Are you kidding me? Like, it was like the whole industry blacked out for 10 years. No, I like YJs too.
Hey, but, square headlights are cool.
I know. The first chance I can, though, I'll put a CJ front clip on a YJ any day. But yeah, so it was, and while I was working at Napa and like having fun with Adam, like building Jeeps and sourcing parts and like just making them like we put a lot of creativity. Just it all wasn't meant to be. Oh, this part isn't meant to go there. Well, let's do it anyways because it's fun or it looks cool or it's unique. And then at the same time, I was kind of trying to the auto body thing didn't really work out. They kind of told me to pound sand. So from school, and I had a promise to my mother to get a 4-year degree at some point. And so it's like, well, I better just get this out of the way. I'm already racking up student loan debt and everything else. So I might as well just keep on this path of destruction. And I seemed to really enjoy sales while I was working at Napa. So I started sales and marketing classes at the community college, and I was doing just kind of got off this Jeep high of building and painting Jeeps, and I've got my yellow Jeep, and so my dad and I are constantly talking about accessorizing his and what he's going to do so that I can get his old stuff, and then
convince him he needs that so you can get the other.
Exactly. Like, oh yeah, you're going to buy one of those new like gas tank skid plates, right? Because mine's a ratchet strap, and even though yours is less rusty, I wasn't much of a fabricator at that point in my life, and I didn't have any of those tools available to me. But like all these different aspects, right? They kind of were all going into this melting pot for what my life was turning into. My wife, Heather. I met Heather when I was 2005, and she, or like late 04, and then in late 06, she bought the house that we're in now, and
so she was already kind of successful.
Yeah, she had she was a few years older. She had already kind of gone through college, or she was just finishing up when I met her. And she was bartending, and one of the guys, she gave her a job opportunity while she was bartending, like a little country bar, and it evolved into like her next 15 years was in the water and chemical treatment industry.
Oh, okay.
So she was an account manager, service technician. So she had like a big girl job. And then she was married to this degenerate, or not married, but dating this degenerate, who was like spending all of his money and their money on Jeep stuff. And like, this is going to be really cool someday. I promise, maybe. Also, also, I just need to get this new toe strap. So, all right. And so we would, and in that, when she bought that house, it was a 1-bedroom with like a 2 or a 4-car garage underneath the house, built on a slab.
Perfect.
I know. She loved the land. We were on like 8-10 acres with a little trout stream, and I was like, great, now I can live in this shop. And so we would be wrenching on stuff, and I'd be picking up extra work or projects from like the night and weekend people that needed stuff done at Napa, because people would come in and they'd be buying brake pads and like, I don't even know how to put them on. Like, I'll put them on for you. Make $50 or whatever it was. And so I was doing that, working with Adam and my dad, and all the while going to school about sales and marketing. And they kept talking about like, make up a fictitious company. And, then let's, design a product, and how would you market it, and this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, well, I want to just keep building Jeeps. This is too fun. How about my fictitious company, it can be that. And my dad was going to buy a Tuffy center console for like $350. And I was like, Dad, why on earth would you do that? Why don't we just make one? That's so expensive. Now, also know that now I am much more expensive than that for a center console, but with many more features.
Right.
And the times have changed, but there's perspective at that point, and the mother of invention truly is necessity. And if you don't have money, but you need to have it, or really, really want it, you'll figure it out. And, we were faxing. This was even before I'd moved into that new house. While I was going to school, we were faxing back and forth like sketches, because we didn't have camera phones with pictures, or we didn't have. So we're legit faxing or scanning and emailing blueprints and on how to build a center console that not only is that's a center console, because like the old Jeeps really didn't have anything that you could lean on or that was worth it. So we wanted that. We also wanted a spot to put the CD player, because we were both burning up CD players because the cowls leak no matter what.
Yeah.
And so it was like, oh, let's put one right here, and it'll be secure too, I guess. That's a cool byproduct. And then I said, well, there's no dome light, so let's put some lights in it too. And how about a power socket so you can charge your phone or your iPod. And also, that stuff seems so weird and antiquated, but it's not that old.
No, it's not.
It's not like my 8-track, but
Hey,
but
I
anyways,
cut my teeth on 8-track.
I know. As soon as I said that, I was like, yeah, you've seen way more than I've seen. And I'm looking at a Holly Sniper EFI kit and just having that same conversation yesterday when it came into my office. Like, look at what's happened in our lifetime. This is incredible. So
I made side money rebuilding Rochester quadrajets.
Yep.
That's how I made side money. Okay.
That's
People look at me and go, what is that?
long live the Rochester 2G carb. Adam still has a whole boatload of them, because that's kind of his niche too. He just loves doing that. But yeah, so one thing led to another. We had this product for a center console, and I was using it in my like fake classes. And then one day I was like, well, what should we name this thing? And I think my dad popped in. He's like, what about Max-Bilt? My middle name is Maxwell.
Okay.
And it sounds better than Phil Bilt. And so my dad used to joke. He'd say, good. He's like, good thing your middle name isn't Lester. Then it'd be Les Bilt. But and then I think it was just before 2008. I ran into a buddy when I was doing sales calls at Napa. There was an engineer at a sheet metal company, Jay Miller, and I was like, hey, dude. He was working on like some Toyota drift racer on a weekend or on a off time at a shop, and he worked for Wisconsin Metal Fab. And he's like, yeah, man, I've always wanted to get into this industry. It's cool that you're kind of dabbling with that stuff. Maybe I can. He's like, well, like we could be partners. And I'm like, you don't want any of this train wreck, trust me. And I said, but I'd love to have your help, and like I can get you involved and we can do things together, but like you don't want to share in whatever debt that I'm gonna run into, because I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. And it was pretty much like, fair enough. And honestly, I didn't want to be fiscally tied to anybody even still, because the decisions, we're more of a co-op now with the whole team. Everybody kind of makes helps make the decisions. But early on it was just like, man, who knows, like, well, what if this doesn't work out? I can't trust myself for 30 seconds, let alone to see a product through to its entire life cycle. But we ended up designing it in sheet metal, and I said, there's a big show in this place called Mo-hab. I don't know. It's somewhere in Utah. It's like the Mecca for Jeeps. It's every year there's this pilgrimage for all these crazy yahoos It's probably like Burning Man. I don't know, but they have a big trade show, and we should probably go there. And we'll build 10 of these consoles. We'll go out there. We'll sell them all. Some big company will just kind of pick up the product line, and then we'll just get paid royalties, and then we'll just keep building Jeeps. That's not how it worked.
Great concept.
Well, I'll tell you, man, like, this is kind of fun to relive. Thanks for letting me do this, Rich, by the way. This is kind of fun.
I'm enjoying
sometimes
it.
you forget, you know? So we set up like an assembly sweatshop in the downstairs of my current house, or in the garage, the shop, I don't know. Max-Bilt Intergalactic World Headquarters was what we would call it. And so we had tunes cranked. My wife's cousins were over, Lonnie, Jay, with this younger guy, Jesse Crow. We'd nicknamed him Shop Rat. And we were just jamming and hustling and drinking beers and putting together consoles. And that was before powder coating was an option, because you actually had to pay people for that. So we were just got the HVLP with some Rust-Oleum hammered black paint, and we're spraying them in one section of the garage. We've got folding tables in another section where, as soon as they're dry, we're piecing them together. And then, you know, we're wrapping them in like whatever sheet plastic we could find, and then stuffing them in a couple of U-Haul boxes taped together. And I didn't have a truck, so during my sales route,
you traded your trucks.
Yeah, so that's gone. And my wife had a little like Pontiac Sunfire that I was allowed to drive because she's amazing. So I'm running and I had my Jeep, but like that wasn't going to tow anything. That's going to go on the trailer, and we'll put a console in it, and like we'll show it in one of these at this booth at this show thing. And so I borrow a trailer, because I was also working on another guy's Jeep, a Scrambler, Mike King, who I just got to reconnect with, and he brought another Scrambler over for us to rebuild last summer. But I was working with him on his project at his house. He had a really nice trailer that he said I could borrow. So then it was like, all right, so I've got a Jeep, I've got a trailer. Now and I'm getting product built. I got to find a truck. So I was talking with this guy that was a mechanic at a lawn care company, Scott. And I was like, hey, Scott, do you know anybody? I'm looking for borrow a truck. And he's like, I got a old Chevy. I mean, it's nothing. It's a 1-ton. It's nothing pretty, but it'll get the job done. It's reliable-ish. And I was like, deal. That's all I need to
I'm going
hear.
all the way to Utah.
Yeah.
Towing a trailer
Borrow
with
a
Jeeps
truck,
on it.
Not a pot to piss in. And, oh my gosh. It was Jay, my wife, myself, and then we were going to pick my dad up in Iowa on the way. So we load up, we put fuel in.
Well, you had two people with money then, your wife and your dad. Right,
yeah, exactly. Thank God. And we're like, okay, so the trade show's on Thursday. We'll get there on like Tuesday, and because setup's on Wednesday, or maybe it was we'd get there on Monday, and then we'd hang out, do any last minute. We'd wrench on the Jeep because of course that wasn't ready too, and we didn't really know much about trail riding at the time. It was more I just like to jam out with the top down and listen to music. Like that was what made it fun for me. And so we're cruising through, and we get down to Iowa, we pick my dad up, and it's a 350 two-wheel drive crew cab. And it's actually quite comfy. You know, I don't know, those old trucks are kind of fun. And you don't go fast, but you go until you hit like Des Moines, and then I-80 west through like towards Council Bluffs and those first like little hills. It was like, wow, this thing really downshifts. You got to go pretty slow. And then we hit Omaha and Lincoln, and it was just like chugging and chugging and chugging. We're like, oh, what is going on? And I remember like the first, there's on I-80 going west. I have broke down in pretty much every pull-off stop between here and Moab, Utah also. But this
on
is
one
how
trip
it
or other
started.
combined
Oh,
trips?
on all of them.
Okay.
Because this started our annual pilgrimage myself. Because each year it had to be better than the year before.
Right.
And so we cruise out there, and I want to say it was just west of Lincoln. I don't know. We had to start running seafoam through the carb because it just wasn't running right, and it didn't have power. So it's probably nothing major. Well, then we ended up towards North Platte, changing all the spark plugs and spark plug wires, wondering why we were only running 50, 55 miles an hour. Then we get down to, I remember, Fort Morgan, Colorado, and then it was like every other like component that we could throw at it, other than a map sensor. We'll be back to that in a minute. And then we get down to Denver, and
There's that
it's
big mountain in front of you.
Yeah, because it's already been 24 hours, not the 15 or 10 to 15 that we thought it was going to take. It's already been a full day. We've slept. We stopped at a hotel. Thanks for my dad for having the Hilton points. And so we get down to Denver, and we pull up to Evergreen, just start climbing, and the thing is not going anywhere. It's like 15 miles an hour to the wood, trying to pull this truck and trailer up. So we pull over in Evergreen for pizza. There's a little pizza joint right off.
Because when the truck's not running right, pizza's always a good choice.
So we had to do something, man, because I'll tell you, here's the other thing. It was, it wasn't yet. Well, it seemed chilly. We'll be back to that in a second, too. But as we're climbing in altitude, things aren't working. And we pull over, because at this point, it's like, do we just, pull
Turn
the Jeep
around.
off the trailer? Well, that was my dad. He's like, well, I mean, yeah, we gave it a good try, huh? It's like, what? You kidding me? No way. Also, all we got to do is get to the top of this stupid mountain because it's pretty much downhill the rest of the way. And we're so close. And so we were going to, like I said, we're going to pull the Jeep off the trailer and just drive it up and over. But I've never been to the mountains, let alone driven through them. And it's dark. It's 8 o'clock at night. And then finally Jay was like, all right, hop in. We're going. Well, if we go 15 miles an hour, at least we're going. And it was like, can't argue with that. We hop in and we start rolling. My dad's in the back seat, just like staring out the window, just panicking, but not like, how's it going back there? Fine. It's fine. Okay. Thanks for worrying enough for the rest of us and everybody else on this interstate. And so we start climbing, and it's still like, now the blower motor quit working. So the only way that we have heat as we're climbing up into the mountains in the spring is if you have forward movement and air blowing through the cab and the airbox. Well, we don't have that either because we don't have any speed because, well, we about realized there that what about a manifold absolute pressure sensor? Because again, we didn't have Google, but we definitely could we were asking everybody that we would run into, or we would make a ton of phone calls. And when you climb an altitude, it runs shittier and shittier. Well, that's what that part of this very, very simple system does. And we're like, oh, that'd be great. Too bad we can't do anything with it anyways, because it's the middle of the night now. And I remember just before we get to Vail, there's the Visitors Center, right out the Summit Visitors Center. And just before you get to that pull-off, there is a large bridge. You may not remember it, or it might not stick out in your brain because you probably go over it quickly. but we weren't. So, and it's like over a very large gorge, and we had a semi that's getting close to the summit. So like, if the semis are moving, man, they're moving.
Right.
And you, if you're in their way, you're going to get bowled over. Well, so we see semis like flying up the hill, probably doing at least 20. And so here we are, like just inching our way up. And then on that bridge, it just stops. It had no more power, no more nothing. And so like we kind of, we just kind of pull over to the shoulder, or we were pulling over to the shoulder because it was like, 7 miles an hour, 6 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour. And we're like, okay, we better get out of the way here. So we just sit there. We're freezing. And semis are blowing by us. We have this Jeep on the trailer. It's like, I don't know. It was probably 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night. And then my dad in the back seat, like, do we just walk? It's like, no, but we can't just abandon it all. It starts back up. We get enough oomph to like get off to that visitor center. All four of us walk into the same bathroom and stand around the heater, the hand blower, hand dryer, just to warm up. And we're actually, my dad, Jay, and I went into the men's room. Heather went into the women's room. And then she hears giggling and slamming that button for the hand dryer time after time after time. So she wanders in there, and she gets in on all this action. So we've thawed our fingers out a little bit. She's still got, I think, some like lingering frostbite injuries from this time. But we get up back to the truck, and we make our way up through Eisenhower at the top there. And then on the other side, to go from 5 miles an hour in the mountains to 75 miles an hour in the mountains is probably one of the most terrifying experiences ever, because you don't even know if this old piece of crap is
gonna stop.
Gonna stop, if the steering's gonna fall off. But at the same time, you're like, well, whatever, man. Let's make up some time. And so we just start cruising down. The other thing that somebody told us was, if you drive to Moab, you have to take the Cisco exit. Those that know of the Cisco exit know that it's just a really cool back road way to get there. So that's at like 4 a.m. by the time we get to that exit. And again, it really was pretty much downhill from there, so not much to talk about. And we get down to that Cisco exit, and it's doing key shots like every time you let off the gas pedal. Just the old carburetor, just so much fuel, and spark doesn't know what to do. Where I remember the sun starts to come up in the canyon. There's some pretty close to the edge canyon roads on that stretch too, once you get down in by the Colorado. And I just remember you start getting glimmers of lights. The headlights are kind of bouncing off rocks, but off to the passenger side, it's just blackness. But it's dark enough and it's so black that you wouldn't know if it's 5 feet or 5,000 feet. And so we're just cruising along.
And you're tired.
Oh yeah, and you're tired. You're so strung out. This is a Wednesday that we're supposed to be setting up at this vendor show, and it's 5 a.m. Sun starts to come through, and then I could see what that edge of that was, and it's like a gorge down to the river, and it was just like. And again, I'm from Wisconsin, man, so we don't have that. We don't have fog line imminent death. It's just not something that we have to deal with. And so that was eye-opening in its own right. And it's backfiring and just banging off the canyon walls. It's like chitty, chitty, bang, bang, slowly making our way into Moab. And we tee into 191 just north of town, and we hang a left. And I think we were staying at that Holiday Inn right there. And we just parked this piece of shit in the parking lot, and we're like, now we have to just quick fix the Jeep, fix all the stuff on the Jeep, get the console installed because we never did that. Do all of these things. We get to the show. We have an awesome booth. You know, my dad, from his sales experience, did a lot of trade shows. So like the public speaking, the like that came pretty natural to me. The interaction with people in those types of environments was something that I grew up around. So we had a really cool booth. At least we thought we presented well. And then there was this guy that came up during the show that looked familiar. He looked like the guy Randy from My Name Is Earl. and he was just talking about how cool these consoles were. And you know, I haven't slept in like days, and I kind of look at him like, "Oh, are you Pete Trasborg?" "Oh yeah, hi, nice to meet you. This is my girlfriend Missy." I about fainted because I've been reading magazines with this guy in it for the last 5 years. And it's like, whoa. And he just said my product was cool. I've made it. I'm done. I can quit.
I don't have to drive back.
Right. You're right. Right. and we that was the start of a wonderful friendship that was shut down way too soon a few years back, but which is where Epic was. He was a major inspiration for Epic. But anyway, so we what was inspiring was the amount of networking that I was able to do. Tom O'Neill from Skyjacker Suspensions was in a booth not far and introduced himself, liked our product and introduced himself. And I had so many questions about how the manufacturing industry worked, because I wanted to build Jeeps, but I knew that I would have to build Jeeps in a small town. I needed to have a national name. The fastest way I felt to get a national name was to be a manufacturer. So now I've wrapped 3 revenue streams up into one. So it's like building 3 separate businesses just to be able to really just build Jeeps and do fun stuff. And like everybody in the industry was just super kind and helpful and willing to offer whatever assistance that they could to see everybody else succeed. And I felt pretty darn blessed to just be a part of it. But I also was like, screw this whole thing. And this Chevy is a hunk of junk and I never want to see it again. Can't I just go home? So
remember, no good story ever started with a salad.
That's true.
So yours started with a pizza.
That's right. You're right. Yeah, and I sold one console that year to a guy from Canada in Canadian money. I didn't even make him exchange it. I didn't care. And I have that framed now as a $20 Canadian or 20 or whatever.
Like $4 American.
Right, yeah. So with the exchange rate, it did not work out well for me. But I took one of those bills. My wife made a cool shadow box, so I kind of remember where it all started. And then it was like, then that Saturday, we did Big Saturday, and also had no idea what like a trail ride out there was.
Right.
Because we're from the Midwest. Like there's no BLM land. Like you don't go get lost for 12 hours at a time. We did 7 Mile Rim. We show up, we do Big Saturday, we do the parade out of town, and we keep driving. We're like, where are we going anyways? Well, that's 15 miles north to the turn-in up by the airport. And so we get up there, and it's 4 of us in a CJ7. We don't really have all of the required equipment. It was kind of like, oh yeah, bring the stuff. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have a lunch. We didn't have anything. And we start bebopping down the trail. We're like, oh, it's fun. It was pretty. It was cool. Oh, it's close to the edge. And we stop at this arch, and then they're like, all right, well, everybody grab a drink of water and we'll keep going. And then we stop somewhere else at noon. And they're like, all right, everybody, why don't we have lunch for a half hour and then we'll keep rolling.
And y'all
Where
looked at each
are
other.
we? Yeah, we all looked at each other like, what is happening? And my dad reaches into his pocket and he's got like, I don't know, 2 handfuls of salted in shell peanuts. So he just rations them out.
It's like the Donner Party at that point.
Yeah. We were on that trail for 12 hours.
with
by the time
with
we
a
got back
handful of
into town.
nuts.
Yeah. And we're like,
But that's
oh
what
my
your
gosh.
wife thought.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Just a whole Jeep full of them. And we get back down to town. Like we were going to go out for steaks that night, and like, you know, what is it, that paddle or something?
Broken oar.
Broken oar. That's right. And I remember we went in there. We were going to have beers and steaks. We were so tired that we went into the Broken Oar, ordered our food, ate half of it. I didn't know if I finished a beer. I was sleeping before I even made it back to the hotel. And that was also the realization that trail riding can kick your ass. And then it was like the next morning we had to load up and head home, and we didn't want to go through Denver because it was so steep. So we're like, we'll go up through Salt Lake City and curve back over to I-80
because that's not
right. Yeah, and I don't know. My dad's the one who's like, this is what we're gonna do. I think. What do you guys think? I don't know. You just told us, and now you don't even sound sure of it. Great. Well, and so as we're heading out of town, we're like, let's grab a map sensor from CarQuest. And like, I've had like anxiety to the max. My heart is just fluttering, like, and not in the, oh my gosh, this is my first love feeling. It's more just like, I'm going to vomit. I have to breathe through every step I take as I'm walking into the parts store yet again to buy crap that probably won't fix my freaking problem. And I walk around this big long freaking trailer that's in my way. And I just about run into this dude with camo shorts, like combat boots, a red beard, and like a Spyderco black zip-up jacket. And I was like, holy shit, that's Clifton Slay. And to me, that was another guy who was a pillar of the industry at that time.
Right.
And he was just like, oh, he just introduced himself. I was like, oh man, Poison Spire, I've been, you guys do such cool stuff. And I said, I'm here and I suck. Everything sucks. And he just looks and he's like, oh man, it's worth it. Just keep doing what you're doing and it's worth it. He's like, it's, you know, guys like you that help keep this industry going. And I'm thinking, I'm like, you're the one that actually does shit. I just break down. But
yeah, but people have to buy parts.
Right. Exactly.
That's what keeps the industry going.
But just that little bit, man, it was enough to be like, yeah. And then Jay, who was like, dude, I'll drive all the way home. We're going. And he drove for 19 and a half hours straight.
So the map sensor worked.
It worked. It worked. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. It worked enough to get us home. And everybody was happy to get their crap back. But that set that precedent that no matter what, it's going to be better. And it was very similar to that for years. But so now we almost thrive on that, right? That unknown
adversity.
You know, that's Max-Bilt has grown. I don't want to make this a 6-hour podcast, so I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because I think that's really what set the precedent for our business. That and do what you love and don't stop doing it. In 2010, my wife asked me to maybe find a different place than the garage since she was pregnant, and she was sick of the upstairs smelling like welding fumes all the time. So we found a place just up the road, and then after a year, the landlord there was like, "And you guys need to beat it." And the building that we're at now came up for to buy in 2012 from another. It was another Jeep guy that had it, and I was able to buy that. And it was just myself and Riley at that point. He actually helped me move in. That was the day that I met him. We signed the day before Thanksgiving on this property. On Thanksgiving, Riley was with my cousin John at that point in our lives. We would go to family dinner, and then we would all go to somebody's house or drink beer or whatever. And so met up with this Riley guy who was in between jobs and just wanted to do something different. And so he came to work with us, and his first job was moving from that other place to this new place. And I mean, he worked for a sandwich and a pack of smokes for 5 months, just to help.
That's a great employee.
I mean, he'll always have a job. He's now our lead technician. And he's been, the loyalty goes both ways. And the point here, you don't have to, skill set is fantastic. One thing you can't not have is passion if you want to work here. Everybody here is passionate about something. And I would say Riley's passion is loyalty. And that was 2012. We kept building stuff and, keep throwing our hat in the ring and trying to make impressions on a national scale. And we got more and more notoriety over the years. And then I think it was 2015, I was finally able to call over to Adam at Napa. And I said, Adam, I think it's time. We just came out with this new product, these new taillights, and they seem to be doing really well. And it's more than I can manage. And I'd love for you to come down and, this is my best friend, right? So don't do business with friends. Right. Well, that's if you don't. I think that's for people who don't know how to do business with friends.
Right.
That's who said that. And so I'd like you to run the show, but also knowing that if I'm going to trust him to run the show, I got to trust him to run the show. So he came down, and he's the coup, the chief of operations, and still helping me come up with whatever crazy ideas I come up with. He makes sure that they happen. And the team has grown. It's changed and evolved, but Riley's still here. Adam's still here. We've, we a couple of years, 2015 was because of all that adversity that we were just talking about. We're wrenching on Adam's old 53 CJ3A and drinking beers in the shop, and him, my buddy Mark, and I, we were like, wouldn't it be cool to drive these hunks of junk across the country, drag something out of the weeds, like rebuild it just enough, and then like throw a dart on the map and drive there? So I said, well, let's quit talking about it, let's do it. And so 2016 was when we drove to Mo-hab, Utah from here, a 2,000-mile trip for Easter Jeep Safari at 30 miles an hour, which that's a whole nother podcast, I feel like, on the Epic Willy's adventure, but feel free to check that out. But it was all because the easy path is easy. And like you said, there's no good stories on the easy path. And so we started doing that in 2016. 2018, we were really hit up hard to be a reality TV show. Discovery Network was all over us, but that was also when streaming was changing the game so much that budgets were cut. Our opportunity fizzled out, but we had some interactions and we caught the attention of one of our parts suppliers, CarQuest and Advanced Auto Parts. And we worked with their marketing department out of Raleigh, because our marketing style, which is true to a lot of the guys in the industry, was very grassroots and homegrown and honest. And we could find ways to humanize a brand. And so when we had them fly out to talk about a TV show, their CMO pulled me into my office and said, "We're not going to be involved in that, but we would like to work with you. We just need to figure out how." So after we did an Instagram takeover for them in 2019 at SEMA, we started building a relationship where we were focusing on explaining and sharing our marketing techniques with their business, as well as the TechNet shops like myself, which TechNet is like it's a national network of independent shops like myself that can offer my customers nationwide warranty, roadside assistance, and a host of other benefits just by doing business with me. So I can give the Goodyears and the Firestones and whatnot a little run for their money.
Right.
And so that branched a whole other business called Legends Marketing, where we've built a team up there as well, that keeps Max-Bilt's identity as Max-Bilt's, but then we can use Max-Bilt to kind of help other shops and work with Advance and CarQuest. And so I started to put a lot of effort into that. And even Epic, our third Epic was this year, and we kind of Max-Bilt was okay. Like business was more like it was keeping everything afloat. We were busy, but if we stayed where we were, well, if you're not growing, you're dying. There's only two options in business.
Right.
And even though I was like, cruise control, right? I mean, Max-Bilt can do that. I enjoy this marketing bit. But then basically our leader over on the account on our marketing side, like really stepped up and took a lot more ownership over the role and like was growing, right? Because none of us was like, this is what we have to do. We're all evolving, and that kind of grew to a point where I could think about the rest of the business. And a friend of mine came on Epic this year as a friend. We had it was the greatest hits year of Epic Willy's Adventure. You could see it. We actually have like a mini series going out on YouTube on Epic Willy's Adventures YouTube channel. So check it out. It's pretty great, but it shows that dynamic, especially what I'm talking about now. And this friend of mine, his name's Chris Cooper. He was the local radio host for 20 some years. And so he was like, he understood marketing. And I mean, in the back of my mind, since I knew him, it was like, so wouldn't it be so cool if someday, he's just good at what he does. You could just tell that he would be an asset, but I'm not in any position to do anything like that. Until I started looking at, there was a number of it. It was looking at where the business is. And it's like, if I create some efficiencies, this business really can grow. And Max-Bilt and Legends. And so it was like, okay. And he's passionate. He's just passionate about life and adventure and, do epic shit. That's what he says every day. Let's do epic shit. And we've PG'd that, and I apologize for dropping some colorful words here and there.
No,
but
it's all right. We're
all right. Shop talk.
Yeah, we're rated.
Deal. And but it was just that type of energy, and he documented our marketing guy at the time, like Epic. He was also a participant in Epic, so to do coverage and to be a participant was a lot. It was a lot to try to manage, and so we kind of asked Cooper to step into that role on this trip, and he killed it. And it was like day 2, I was like, you should just work for us, but also let's spend 14 days and a tiny 1953 Willy's pickup cab together, and at 110 degrees or whatever it ended up being across the plains, and see if we actually like each other at the end of it before we commit to something like that. And he was out of the radio and he was kind of doing his own thing, so it was like it might work. And like Epic is about as inspirational as and exciting as it can get for people that are as deranged as we are. And so then after Epic, we, our existing marketing guy, Cody, was like, man, this job just, he couldn't get it to jive, which is understandable. And so he wanted to go his own way, and which was like, Cooper, let's have that talk now. And Coop started a couple weeks later as our chief marketing officer and took it as that role. Immediately started building up brand partner initiatives because we have loyalty, right? We talked about that. We have reach, we have outreach, we encourage others to do better, be participants, be a part of life. We feel we're good storytellers. So just like with Epic, it was like these brands that we're working with, let's take that to the next level. He's like, I would like to plan out a tour like it's a rock tour. And we'll make tour shirts, and we'll call it the Get Lost Tour 2022. Let's hit the road again, because we'd been cooped up for 2 years. And it was like, and we will go to these trade shows and events, and we're usually fun. We bring a good time, and we also have some product, I guess, if people want to buy it. But at the end of the day, let's play Hammerschlager at the booth. Let's let's have prize wheels and stuff. Let's play beanbags or whatever it might be. Let's make it a party, because that's why people are coming to trade shows. That's why people are coming to social media. Let's make it entertaining. And he just got that, and he understood it, and he's solidified our brand partners. He's grown it with more. We've been thrashing like crazy for our first main event that is on Friday, which is a trip out to the Arizona Strip with For Exploring, Bob Liebenhagen and For Exploring. Right. And so, we just finished building Coop's Jeep last night at like 10 o'clock. With one of our, Terraflex you've known them too forever, obviously.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I was lucky enough. They were the first person that let me hang out in their booth with my product, as like I was somebody important, at least how I felt in 2009 at SEMA. Our first center console in a JK built for Dan from Burnsville Offroad was featured in a Jeep that he built for the guys at Terraflex. And so, again, history, right? Loyalty. Remember who takes you to the dance. And these were those guys. So we got to, we slammed together a cool JK build for Cooper. It's getting its decal set on it now. And then in this fall, we knew that we wanted to do more big projects. We knew that we had some cool projects coming to SEMA last year. I knew that Adam and I are about we are maxed out, max capacity. Our manufacturing was going to shambles because the guy we had running it, we weren't paying attention to the work that he was doing. And it was like, and things were being sold, but like we weren't really paying attention. And so we had some major holes to fill. Our fabricator left. It was pretty bleak this fall, but of course, like, hey, this is where we do our best work. And we had two options. I could downsize, and I could just have the manufacturing be a thing where we basically just come to work, hang out, and play basketball all day. And it would be self-sustaining for like Adam and I, and maybe Cooper. Or we not accept that, and I got into this to build really cool Jeeps, and we've built some really awesome Jeeps, and we're not done yet. And so ran into this gentleman named Kent at on and off over the last year, and then he came to a cruise we did, our customer appreciation cruise in October, and I had some custom Benchmade knives made last Christmas for the crew, and I had a few extra, and so I put it in a raffle, and Kent won it. And I thought about that later that night. I was like, this Kent to me was an enigma. He was a very intriguing person, but who was always happy and just loved life and just loved being around people. And I didn't really know what he did. I knew he worked at some big computer company and did stuff, whatever they do there. And but he was intriguing. And when he won that knife, I don't know if pocket knives hold a special significance, right?
Yep.
And so I texted him that evening and I said, for what it's worth, I think that's pretty cool that you got that. And I couldn't have wished it to go to a better person. And he sent me a picture of like every pocket knife he's ever had since he was a kid. And he said, oh, I know how important it was. And it was like, after that, I said, let's have dinner. I don't know why, but we gotta let's hang out more. And we went to dinner the next week, and him and his wife and myself and Heather, and said, hey, let's I joked about, what do you do? And this is what I do. And basically, we both live to have fun and we work hard so we can play harder. And I was talking about SEMA. He's like, oh, I've always wanted to go to SEMA. I said, I'll get you a ticket, fly out. You can always ride back with us. Ha, 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 ha. Okay. It's like, well, all right. The next morning, he sends me his itinerary, one-way ticket to Vegas. There are a few people, the people that I know would do that work here. And so he came out and he was talking about, he was getting to that point in his life where he was kind of done with that career. And, like thinking about retiring and wanting to do something different. And I said, well, it could look like this. And of course, we're a small shop looking for growth, but we have an opportunity, especially after SEMA. We got lots of phone calls for lots of work. We have some great brand opportunities with Lippert. They want to be a part of this huge bus build that we want to do. And we have a lot of great opportunities. It was like, well, let's keep having this discussion, Kent. But if I can get a bigger building, and what he does, like his background is, his passion is people, but his background is project management. And I didn't want a sales guy, but I did need somebody that was organized, that knew how to increase efficiencies. And the fact that he loves people also allows for that constant communication that isn't sales, but is definitely an aspect of the management of the project that is the customer interaction.
Right.
And so if he can do that, it'll just help with our higher end clients or these longer term projects. Because Adam and I are still shuffling through the leveling kits and the brake jobs and whatever as well, because that part of the business never died either. And each piece can kind of help the other one float sometimes. So, long story short, man, I feel like I'm long-winded and maybe nobody will listen. But
this has been intriguing as hell.
I appreciate that. And so, he talked it over in his life and with his wife and the people that he cares deeply about. And he called up and said, yeah, let's do it. January 10th, I'll start. And he said, let's do epic shit. And I was like, I've heard that before. The guy sitting on the desk right next to you says it every day. And so he came on. We've got now plans to triple the size of our building. We'll be adding on a 6,700 square foot steel manufacturing center where we're going to call it the Epic Build Center, the EBC. Kent will run the EBC, and from the production of all of these projects, we've got 5 slots in there for long-term projects, as well as 2 in a final 2 bays and an assembly area so like a clean room. We'll have a large fab area, as well as like we could do all of that and still work on our 40-foot bus project that we're trying to figure out what that's all going to look like. And then during all of that, as Adam and I are trying to like figure out now how the hell are we going to fix the manufacturing center, I was like, I know this guy that used to work at like a steel center. They sold steel, but like the owner of the steel shop like also would buy like everything, auction lots of pallet racking and like cut apart propane tank cylinders, like the 500 gallon. Like it's like a guy's junkyard's dream. It's all super organized. I remember I used to go out there, and there's this guy Mark would run like the eBay side of like the shipping, receiving, and processing orders. He also did some fantastic vinyl work. And again, over the last year, I started bumping into him again. And I remember back when I was going to Polish Enterprises where he was working, man, that'd be so cool to have somebody that was like that talented, that just got it and had the work ethic to just know to just do the right thing. And thrived on just being as efficient as possible. His passion is efficiencies and just quality of work. Like just knowing, like he's been putting up highlighted emails from customers that are over the moon. We put them up on our refrigerator in our break room, just like we're a family here. We want to see what everybody's doing and see them succeed. I pitched it to him. Like, hey man, like I don't know what it looks like, and this is what I'm thinking. I'm trying to build a leadership team of people with the right virtues and values that can take this. I'm throwing my hat back in the ring, man. I was thinking about cruising, but let's go to the bank. Let's start all over, and let's just start from scratch. What feels like, with all the lessons that we've learned, and we couldn't be in a happier spot. Mark also does like merch, and he does our merch. He's doing our vinyl stuff. He's signing deals with Grizzly Coolers. So we've got collabs with them and Terraflex and all sorts of businesses. I really think that, well, my hope is that you guys, that everybody's going to hear more from us in 2022, 23, 24, 25. My vigor's been restored for sure. You get a little burnt out, man, after 15 years.
Absolutely.
But it's things like this where you're like, oh, that's right. I haven't slept more than 3 hours in the last like week, but a night. Because it was traveling to Kansas City to speak and be a part of these marketing things that I do with Advance and these shops, and share some of the wins and losses from my life with them. And then it was, as soon as it was come back, it was like I got back Saturday night at 7 o'clock. By 10 o'clock, I was coming down to the shop, work on coupes all day the next day, get that ready to roll. And it's fun to build Jeeps again. So
the passion has been, that fire's been reignited.
Absolutely, 100%. And I couldn't be happier about it.
Well, that's really cool. And you guys are going to still do the Epic Willy adventure? So you guys are doing that every other year?
Yeah. So, and I had to, I put my foot down is the wrong word. Because again, we are a co-op around here. And, for those that may have seen it too, but we do, every Tuesday morning we cook bacon, and I do a Facebook Live called Mornings with Max-Bilt, where I'm just cooking bacon and shooting the shit with whoever's out there. But I do that because that's when we have our shop meeting, and we talk. Every department says something. Everybody has something to offer, or has the floor at some point where we break bread. We're sitting there, we're bullshitting, and everybody gets to kind of talk about what they'd like to see, and how we can all incorporate it. Well, we were Epic, that topic was brought up too, and it was, Coop's excitement to do it every year after this last one. And I was like, man, if we want to we've got 30 events on the calendar right now for this year. There's 52 weeks in a year, and we're already 3 months in. We start on Friday. So if we try to do Epic for 2 weeks and all these other things, we can do it. I might not have a wife or a life at the end of it, but I try to incorporate my family into all these things. And I'll tell you what, during COVID, I bought a little chainsaw sawmill, cut a bunch of trees down, and built a little cabin on my property. I like being home now. I haven't been home for 10 years, it feels like. COVID taught me that I need to remember that balance. And that's part of building this team, right? So that I don't necessarily have to be the one that goes to every single thing.
Right.
But Epic will be every other year continue. We're going to go back to that. So our, I guess you heard it here first. We've decided that it will be around the Bantam show next June, and it will be a East Coast tour. Yep. So we'll be starting and or ending in Butler, Pennsylvania, and or starting and or ending in Boston. Okay. So Crown Automotive has always been a huge supporter, and they're in Plymouth, and or Manchester, with that area.
Mark's awesome.
Yeah, he is, absolutely. He's so great. And so we'll start there, go up into Maine. We'd like Canada to open the back up so we can go up to, there's a really cool road up on the St. Lawrence Seaway that would be killer to do in a flatty. So, and a flatty in like June. So that's our goal. That's when we'll be doing it next year. We'll actually have our dates and stuff hammered out for when we're at the Bantam show this year, because that's when we will announce it. And yeah, I think that's everything. I can't wait to, when people ask me how did I get into it, I'm just going to send the link.
There you go. Well,
I haven't had the opportunity to do that.
I can remember when I came to visit you at the shop. It was during one of those, your staff meeting, I'd say, where you were doing the videotaping and cooking, I don't know, 16 pounds of bacon or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
it's fun.
It was great. And I hope to get back up there here this year and visit you guys and see what's new. Really like to do another shop tour for the magazine or something.
Yeah, well, let's later in the summer, then it'll be, the more impressive it will be.
Excellent. Well, cool. Hey, Phil, I want to say thank you so much for coming on board and spending this morning doing this interview and telling us your life story and how you got to where you're at now and basically your plans for the future, expansion but building the team to do it right. That is, yeah. Well, when you said it like that, it gave me chills, and that's exactly what I'm hoping to do. And so I'm glad it's coming off as such. Perfect. So
all
excellent.
Right, Rich.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and I'll let you know when this is going to air.
All right. Can't wait.
All right. Talk to you later, buddy.
All right. Later.
Bye.
If you enjoy these podcasts, please give us a rating. Share some feedback with us via Facebook or Instagram, and share our link among your friends who might be like-minded. Well, that brings this episode to an end. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you next week with Conversations with Big Rich. Thank you very much.